Oh, hi, Mel. Nice to see you. Very nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. Can you hear me okay? Just doing a little sound check. Great. Oh, Julie. Hi. Haven't seen you for a while. So I got an email from InsightLA inviting me to register for this group, which maybe all of you received as well. And then I thought, okay, well, let me see what it's like to register. And you still have to create an account, which I think is an obstacle for people. I noticed there's been a drop of at least 50% in our group since we had the Zoom bombing and people were asked to create an account. So I don't know how that is for you, but if you can, if it's an obstacle for you or you experienced it that way, I'd be interested to know. You can just put it in the chat. Um, how that signing up process strikes you, because we have, with Caroline moderating, we have a fierce warrior who will not let us be Zoom bombed. You were great that time. They kept trying to get in and you kept stopping them. Yeah, we really, really, really have you to thank for that. So we'll start in just a minute, and then we'll take a few minutes and then we'll start again. So welcome everybody to our Sunday morning sitting group. Very happy to see you all and to welcome you from the lands of Venice, California, formerly inhabited by the indigenous people, the Tongva people, the Chumash people, the Keith people from all the Los Angeles basin, the people who lived on this land way before we ever got here, who took good care of it and who never really seeded it, but just suffered a massive influx of migrants from the east. And we acknowledge that here we are and that this is land that was unseeded, and to at least offer a bow to the ancestors who enjoyed this land, who lived like we do, eating and loving each other and giving birth and mating and dying and all those things that humans do, that mammals do, actually. Oh my gosh, here's somebody from my past, Sally Cheek. I just let her in, Caroline, because I saw her name. I'm like, Sally Cheek is here. Oh my goodness. Welcome, Sally, if you're here. So let's just wait a couple minutes as people are arriving right now, and then we'll begin. In the meantime, you can do what I'm going to do and take a look at the gallery view and see who is here. You can also put in the chat where you're tuning in from. Always like to know where you are. There's Jocelyn. Jocelyn's going to be teaching next week while I'm teaching the retreat with Anam Thupten and Norman Fisher. Camille from South Dakota, Isabel, LA, Francis from Cambridge, Neil from Houston. Oh, good. All over people. A long time away, Julie. Kim, back after many years away. Welcome back, everybody. Oh, and Mandy's here. I haven't seen you forever. And Sally, I just have to say hi to you. Oh my gosh. Like what, 20 years since I've seen you? And Lane, well, Lane I've seen in between some, but really happy to see you, Sally. And Bob is a friend from those days too, Bob Poole. He's in the square underneath you, Sally. We used to say sitting in the row behind you. Now we say on the tile above you or underneath you. But of course, it's different on all of our browsers. And yeah, Mel and Hillary, who are back. Hi. So, yeah, so let's begin. I think we're mostly arrived. I did say at the beginning, for those of you who may have just come in, that I received an email from InsightLA encouraging me to register for this group, which maybe you received also. So I thought, I'll see what it's like to register. And I had to create an account, which again, I'm curious if that is experienced as an obstacle to you, because I have noticed that the group is about half the size that it was before people had to create an account. And before we had the Zoom bombing, from which I'll just give Caroline another shout out that she protected us, and she will protect us today if it happens again. But I don't think it has. I actually think you're fending everybody off who was trying to get in that day, made it not fun, and they haven't tried again, is my sense. But we'll see.
I'm so glad I could help that week. Just a quick note. For those protective strategies, we still require people to raise their hand, and then I'll go ahead and unmute you just so we don't have some random people blurting out.
Yeah, and so what that means is usually you would unmute yourself when we come to the sharing part, but this time Caroline will unmute you. So for people who may not remember, the reaction button is down toward the right on the bottom of your screen if you're on that is, if you're on a computer or a laptop, and I think it's up toward the top right where it says more if you're on your iPad or phone. But anyway, you'll figure out how to raise your hands, or you'll put in the chat if you're having any trouble doing that, and Caroline will help you. So my name is Trudy, and welcome to our Sunday morning sitting group. We for those of you who are new, we roughly divided into some meditation, some teaching, and then some conversation together. So I will do some guidance. We had a very quiet meditation last week. I'll do a little more guided meditation this week. For those of you who don't like guided meditations, just, tune out my voice. I know it interrupts the wonderful story you're telling in your head. That's the trouble with guided meditations. But they can be helpful too. So yeah, we'll sit together, then we'll have, and I want to acknowledge we have been studying the Eightfold Path, and we will continue to do that, but also have a chance to experience the grief that I know many of you are feeling because of another war. And just to name that, it's in the field, it's certainly in my heart, and unless you absolutely have a news fast. I'm guessing it's on your mind too. So let's sit together. Find a comfortable frame for your body for this time. It can be lying down, standing up, sitting, whatever works for you to be able to be still for a while. And Caroline, I'm trusting you're looking at the people trying to get in, because I'm not. So I like to begin by taking 3 deep breaths, intentionally deep and controlled breaths, breathing in the aliveness of this moment together. And breathing out, just releasing any tension there may be. There inevitably is. And once again, breathing in and out. Letting your shoulders drop as you take another deep breath in. And breathing out. And just allowing the attention to drop from the head, where it's usually lodged, gently drop down into the body, to the shoulders, the chest and back, arms and hands, the seat, buttocks, hips, legs, feet. Just tuning into the presence of this body. And whether you're resting your attention with the movement of the breath in the body, or feeling the sensations that come and go, being grounded in this felt sense of the aliveness of simply being in this body helps to release the grip of the thinking mind, to open the hand of thought, the thinking that's generated by our brains. And we're not just trying to get quiet or annihilate this thinking, but just to sit quietly, to let it flow through. And taking a moment to appreciate the willingness, your willingness, our willingness, to sit quietly next to the stream of consciousness and listen. And sometimes listening to this stream of consciousness might sound like babbling and gurgling. Or just the sounds of the water, the contents of our minds and hearts just flowing by. And sometimes there might be a song or a voice, an inner voice talking away, or a scream, or a cry. And sometimes it might be quite silent, quite peaceful. And just sitting with the thoughts and feelings, sensations, memories, dreams, plans, and fantasies. The flow that is our mind's stream, flowing by. And sitting like this, there's no need to have things be any different from the way they are. No need for you to be any different from the way you are right now. And any time there's a sense of being caught or entangled in the experience that's happening right now, just shift the body back half an inch or an inch. Just taking that backward step into receiving. maybe even welcoming the experience that you're having right now, just because it's here and you can sense and feel it. And moving the body ever so slightly back, can you feel that shift, that subtle relaxation? And for people lying down, just letting the body soften into just a slightly deeper layer of relaxation into the ground, being held by the ground, by the earth. steadying and strengthening the ability to be present with the changing experience of life. You begin to touch the sense of peace, of quiet. And just a reflection as we close this sitting, how odd, how paradoxical it is that by attending to the changing nature of experience, little by little, moment by moment, breath by breath, stability comes, steadiness and stability in the midst of it all. Yeah, so today we need more than ever this steadiness and stability in our practice as we're witnessing something so painful transpiring on the other side of the world. I found myself just unbidden having reflections yesterday when I would put a load of laundry in the wash. I would feel like if I were a refugee, I wouldn't have my washing machine. Or I would open the fridge to get a snack or make some dinner and think, oh, if I had to flee my home, I wouldn't have a refrigerator with food to eat in it. Oh, all day long, just noticing what it's like to have everything that we have. Most of us who are housed have some running water, have some place to do laundry, have some food to eat, and some warmth and shelter, just feeling both the appreciation for having these things and the gratitude, but also imagining life on some dangerous road without them. Just a kind of, how we use our imaginations at the end of the sitting group. We use the imagination to send loving kindness and compassion and our friendliest wishes for wisdom and peace and so forth in the world. We share the blessings of this practice and whatever's been beneficial in a teaching, share it with everybody. And this act of sharing the blessings is so powerful because it's acknowledging the connection that we have with each other, and we're not separate. And when something is terrible is going on with anybody that we know about, and increasingly we know more and more about the terrible things going on in the world, the heart feels that. It shivers with compassion for that. So today I thought in our study of the Eightfold Path, I would just like to briefly review the path factors, the elements of this path, and then, but as you're listening, keep in mind how you might recognize these in your everyday life, because recognizing them is the first step to strengthening and cultivating them, saying, oh yes, this is this. So because that's what I want to speak about today, is how to bring this into our daily lives so that it's actually a living practice, and not just another Buddhist list that we recite and do or don't remember. So I'm going to ask some questions just for you to reflect on with each one. And again, each one we use the word right is the translation for samma, which means complete, fullness, nothing left out. So when we say right wisdom, you can say nothing left out of that wisdom. And I actually like the translation of wise. It just feels more approachable, but use whatever you want. The first one is wise view, samaditi, and understanding the place of ourself, this the way that we are through the causes and conditions of our upbringing and our life experiences, our karma, you could say, the actions that we take, our karma vitaka, the actions and the results of those actions. So much of the Buddha's teaching is based on understanding cause and effect, actions and their consequences. It seems so simple when we hear it, but actually it is so powerful when we practice it, or when we look at history that way. What's happening in Ukraine, and what's happening in the West with Russia, and what we did to Russia in the 90s, and et cetera, et cetera. Just really seeing the cause and effect of in history too, our personal history and the world history, and being able to see then how our perspective, and this is where we really need each other, to see how our perspective is so formed by the causes and conditions of our upbringing and the experiences that we've had in our life. And that formation of our perspective, it's really important to see. It's important when we're looking at implicit bias, racial or gender-based or class or age or whatever biases we may hold. Really important to begin to see it's not personal, but it becomes personal when we don't see it and act and live from a perspective that is usually too narrow. Most of us did not grow up understanding the vast, interdependent, interconnected nature of reality and having parents who taught us about that and manifested that. So can you see in your life how cause, or in your study of whatever you're looking at, how cause and effect are happening, how they're operating? Can I see the moment of boredom in sitting? I'm having to write this piece, not for my book, but for something else, and I've been kind of stuck on it. And then can I see that moment of boredom before I'm actually in the refrigerator or making the popcorn? Nothing wrong with the refrigerator or the popcorn, but all day long, do you know what I mean? I have to, not you, I have to learn to see what is driving these kinds of behaviors and what might release them. Usually seeing it is enough at this point in my practice. Sometimes seeing isn't enough, but in that case, you reach out and you talk to a friend, or you read some Dharma, you listen to something, you do some meditation, you go for a walk, you do other things that can help you kind of calm down and see, is there wisdom in what I'm doing? Is there wisdom in what I'm thinking? Is there wisdom in what I'm writing or speaking or expressing? And then there's Samma Sankappa, right intention. And that's I'm kind of merging them, because that's how our perspective informs what we're doing right now and how we're seeing things. And then we see the purpose, like what is the intention? What is the purpose of the words I'm saying, or the relationship that I'm in? The purpose of my speaking to you this morning is to share teachings that have really, really changed my life and that I love. What is the purpose of the relationships that you find yourself in? Why are you in them? What is your personal mission statement? Do you have one? My granddaughter, that was a slip. I feel like she's my daughter sometimes. My granddaughter, who's in college, called me yesterday. She wanted to apply for an internship, and she was having trouble thinking, what is the overarching purpose of my life, Nini? She's 20 years old, and it's not something that I was clear about at that age, that's for sure. So just helping her craft a kind of mission statement of what she most cares about. This is something that each one of us could do from time to time. And is that mission statement, is our intention, is it directed toward kindness? Is it directed toward love? Is it directed toward sharing with our current life companions, whoever they may be in the moment? What are the commitments or wishes that are guiding me right now, that are guiding you right now? And then this is the hardest one for me, wise speech. And it's hard because the teachings sometimes make it seem like you can't say anything negative at all or have any negative thoughts at all, which ideally, sure, but as in our humanness, it's not really like that, is it? And for some of us, it's harder than others is to ask ourselves before we say something, is it kind? Is this the right time to say it? Is my timing off, or is this a good time to say it? Is it beneficial? Is there a little dig in that email? Am I trying to make somebody feel guilty for something they haven't done that I thought they should have done? Am I engaging? When is it gossip and when is it sharing information? I shared the information last week that our colleague Michael Stroud was intubated and in a medically induced coma and gravely ill in the hospital. That's not gossip. That's sharing information because we sent him some metta. And you know what? It worked. He is recovering slowly. It's going to take time. I don't know if I said this if I had learned this. Suzanne Smith, who is one of our teachers, who's also a nurse and a clinician, said when a coma is induced, it's like a retreat for the body. Like the body doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to be awake. It doesn't have to perceive or think or talk. It's like a retreat for the body so it can just use all the energies for healing. So Michael will stay like that until he's better than he is right now, but he is recovering. So that's not gossip, that's information. But it's easy that distinction between when is it gossip and when am I sharing information, I think it has to do with our motivation, our intention. Is the intention to share news about people we care about and we know the other person does too? Or is the intention to express disapproval or judgment or something like that? And then sometimes it's necessary to speak strongly. And I wish I'd looked for it, but I couldn't find it. The Buddha talked at one point about sometimes sharp speech. I don't know if he said sharp or harsh, but I'm hoping it was sharp. It depends on the translation. Is necessary. Sometimes a limit needs to be set very strongly. And to try to be nice and never, speak angrily or strongly ever may not be actually very wise. And I think the part of wise speech that I enjoy and feel best at is listening. I like that part. Although I must say, growing up, and I don't know how it was at the dinner table of your family growing up, but everybody talked at the same time in my family. Nobody listened to anybody, and everybody talked over everybody else. So that's a habit to unlearn for me. But it doesn't really come up unless I'm with my family. My sister and I just talk over each other all the time, and then we have to stop. Of course, I'm better at stopping. Ha ha ha. That's how it feels, right? That's how we always feel. Then the right livelihood, the wise livelihood. And these are the speech, the livelihood, the behavior. These are things that George Mumford talked about a few weeks ago in that whole basket that we call integrity or sila. But looking at yourself, how am I using the things I have, my food, shelter, clothing, medicine, money, what kinds of choices am I making? About my ecological footprint, I'm not encouraging anybody to feel guilty about their ecological footprint. I told the story last week of the therapist who asked me to do something bad when I was trying so hard to be spiritual and good in a tough situation. And the bad thing I chose to do, which felt really bad, was taking all my recycling and putting it in the trash, right? And when I reported it to the therapist as my bad thing, my homework that I had done, those of you, so many of you heard this last week, but he said, that is pathetic. Now, I don't know what he wanted me to do. I never found out. Um, I'm sure he wouldn't remember now. But just looking at the impact of what we're doing, what we're saying, our intentions sometimes are good, but the impact on the other person is not good. And that's part of our sila, to attend to the impact and not defend. Well, I didn't mean it that way, that happens with microaggressions. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. No, but if it landed that way, that's what I attend to and care about. And then, yes, our wise effort. Do we abandon the unhealthy and go for the healthy? Personally, on a tiny microchip of this, I have made a shift from, what is it, like potato and corn chips to popcorn. That's a healthier choice. But of course, this is like a little microchip of the choices we make. It's also when things get hard, do we keep going? Sometimes our practice is pleasant, it's a refuge, we're grateful for it. Sometimes, who wants to do it? We don't want to. And yet, if we keep going and we sit for whatever it is, a half hour, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever your time that you want to sit, if we do it, we feel so much better afterwards. If only for having done it, but that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah, our wise effort. And then the mindfulness. What am I aware of right now? Is my awareness, is it suffused with some kindness and tenderness? Do I observe the flow of experience, how it appears and disappears? 1 minute I'm worried about the Ukrainians, and the next minute I'm thirsty and having a drink of water. And I'm here with you. And that's all there is here, now, with you. When I'm practicing mindfulness, do I feel dualistic? Like there's the mind over here and then there's you over there. I'm observing you over there. Or is there simply the openness to the relationship, me, you, and everything that happens in the in-between, in the intersubjective field? Am I practicing awareness of the body as a grounding support for being present? These are the questions that you can reflect on with the mindfulness, wise mindfulness. And then there's wise samadhi. We practiced sitting this morning, which is that gathering of all these fragments of thoughts and feelings and memories and dreams, and just gathering it together so that it's happening now, and we realize that this is all happening now. And looking at what you're doing, what I'm doing in any given moment. Is it contributing to quieting down? What am I doing before I meditate? Is it going to help me calm down when I sit down, or when I lie down, or when I stand, or however you're holding your body while you practice? Is there some kindness, some love, some faith or trust? Are there some beautiful qualities, some joy, some spaciousness present in the mind right now? Looking at that and noticing what's not there. Maybe there's not any hate right now. Maybe there's not any grief. Maybe there's not any, anger or fear. Maybe there's no ill will. Ill will can be defined. You can think of ill will as the unwillingness to be present. It doesn't have to be ill will like, hating somebody. It could just be the unwillingness to be present. So these are the elements of this noble eightfold path that covers all of our life experience. And I want to encourage you to just think of these path factors during the week as you are going about all the things that you go about doing and thinking and saying and feeling, and just noticing them, tuning into them, and or with the ones that we talked about, that you do first, the practices of generosity, right? The practices of giving, of sensing other people's needs, of stepping out of our self preoccupation or self centeredness. That's also a great way to begin, a great place to begin, and to look at. Uh, like I was saying, I think it was last week, the Buddha knew that there were things that had to happen before practicing these 8 steps on the path, and they were giving dana, sila, the precepts, the not killing, stealing, lying, and so forth, and metta, friendliness. These are things that really are helpful to practice and to enjoy. So maybe that's what you'll be looking at during the course of this week of your practice. It's helpful to have some specific things to notice, I think. So I hope it'll be helpful for you. And let's see if there was anything else I wanted to share with you before opening up to you. I was thinking about what I said at the end of the sitting a lot, like just how paradoxical it is that by attending to the appearing and disappearing, the arising and passing away, the changing experiences of everything that we sit with, this slice of life, this slice of time of who we are, and are exploring it more deeply, that with all that sort of movement of mind, witnessing it from a place of more spacious stillness, that place of spatial stillness, space and stillness that we call samadhi sometimes, or concentration, that it's a curious thing to me that grows and grows the more we pay attention to the movement of the mind and heart. But it does, and you've seen this in your own practice. So I just feel tired. I've tired of hearing my own voice, and I'd love to hear some of yours. So anybody who would like to share your experience of your own practice, any question that may be arising in your practice, not that I have answers, but that we can reflect on together. And any question that you ask, I'm sure, is in somebody else's heart as well. And there's always the breakout, or usually most weeks we have the breakout groups after the sitting, which happen after a 10-minute bio or snack or whatever other kind of break, where you can also share questions and confusion. And it's really wonderful to have a safe space to explore confusion together, because the minute you're aware of it, it's not a problem. It's just another mind state arising. Anyway, if you have anything that you would like to offer, just raise your hand. Oops, I'm sorry, Caroline. I automatically let somebody in. I hope they won't turn out to be. I just saw it and went like that. Sorry.
I think you're good.
Julie,
Julie.
Thank you, Julie, for being the icebreaker.
I never speak, but um, so I haven't done a long retreat for a while, COVID and other circumstances, which is usually a big reset for me and kind of gets things back. I'm
Yeah.
sitting regularly, but sitting alone most of the time. And I feel like I'm just in sort of a kind of level and habit of it. And
Yeah.
it feels like it's kind of skimming the top a little bit. So I wonder if you would just kind of refresh or provide some thoughts on how just to open it a little deeper, work a little bit harder, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because long-time practitioners always eventually hit this kind of plateau, and COVID has made it harder because for a long time there haven't been in-person retreats, and still in many places there aren't. The retreat that I'm teaching with Norman and Anam Tupten next weekend is on Zoom. It's still a Zoom retreat, but I know Spirit Rock is holding retreats again. But then the question is, are you willing to go yet? It's tricky. So that said, one of the things that I find refreshing in practice is to do something like what I was teaching today, where you take a teaching. It doesn't have to be the Eightfold Path. It can be anything, but you take a teaching and choose that thing to do and study for at least a week. You might extend it to a month if it starts to bring a little more juice into or aliveness into the practice. I think the mind, our minds do like variety as well as routine. And so providing that variety of, like, what are you doing when you sit? What is the practice you're doing?
Mostly I've been doing metta for
Yeah.
the most part. I find that helps me focus and concentrate and open a little bit more. So I try and mix it up and just go back and just do a breath practice to see if I can stay a little more concentrated and present without the metta. But mostly it's been a metta practice.
The other thing you can do if you love practicing metta is that you can practice longer and extend the categories and make it more of a concentration practice. Do you know about doing that?
Yes.
That's something almost as if you were in a retreat. You could say, okay, I'm going to extend my practice. I'm going to do um, a mini retreat, like 2 hours a day, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to extend the categories. Or I'm either going to extend the categories of beings, or I can extend the directions. So then I'm offering the phrases to the north, the south, the east, the west, the northwest, the northeast, the southeast, the southwest, above, below. Do you see what I mean? You can make
Yeah.
it, and the more intricate you get with the metta, actually the more concentration it brings, and then it becomes its own reward because when the mind is gathered like that, it's pleasant, right? So I don't know the circumstances of your life right now, but if you're able to do that, or another idea is to do it like a sandwich retreat where you sit a half day on the weekend or more during the, about these things, right?
Yeah, no, thanks. And I love doing that more intensive practice, even alone and at home. And I think I just forgot about it. Quite honestly, I got into the routine of and
Yeah.
feeling good about a regular daily sitting, but haven't put that back in. So thanks for the reminder.
Well, the
Thank
other
you.
thing you can do, Julie, that might be helpful is, you can put out if you want to in the chat that if somebody wants to join you and do this with you and be a buddy, sometimes it's really helpful to do a check-in, uh,
Uh-huh.
to just do a check-in at the end of the day. Did you do it? Did you not do it? If you didn't, how can I support you to get back to it? Or do you know
Yeah.
something like that? Um, especially if you're feeling alone with your practice right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Lovely to see you again, and I'm enjoying the colors behind you. So pretty. Um, so Candace asked a question in the chat about ill will and that definition of ill will. Because yeah, if you're like me, Candace, I always assumed that ill will was towards somebody or something. And what I was talking about was not even ill will towards oneself or one's thoughts, but understanding that any movement, and you could describe distraction as a form of ill will because we're not being present with experience. Whatever we do to distract ourselves. Like sometimes I'll pick up my phone and text somebody. Now, I'm not texting anything mean to them. It's not ill will in that sense. But maybe it's ill will if I was intending to focus on something else and then I just didn't. Um, I don't know if that answers the question or reflection you have. Do you want to say more, Candace? I don't see where you are. I know you're here, but can't see you. Or put more in the chat.
Yeah, my camera's off.
Fine.
It helps a little bit. I'm still a little bit confused about that.
What's the confusion? Because maybe we'll learn something from the confusion together.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I was thinking ill will was, towards something or a situation or whatever, but now you're saying that it's more just kind of generalized, like,
I'm not really saying that it's not that. Obviously, it's ill will if I'm wishing you ill. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's ill will for sure.
right, yeah. That
Or
part I understood, but it was the part about, I guess, avoiding things or whatever is ill will.
yeah, it's just I don't know. Anytime I hear a definition that's just sort of widens my view of what that thing could be, it's more interesting to me. It comes back to what Julie was saying. We have our sort of routine ways of doing things and understanding things. And I heard that somebody, I was listening to, I don't know, some monk said that about ill will, and I thought, that's more subtle understanding of ill will. Uh, it's seeing that it's pointing to aversion, turning away from something. Does
Yeah,
that make better sense?
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you. Are you all shy today? Yeah, Meredith.
Thanks. I missed what Candace said. Morning, everybody. And thank you, Trudy. So I had to plug in my computer again, and so I missed what Candace said, which I'm sorry about because what really helped me this morning, a lot of things, but what you said was mentioning ill will. I usually think of ill will as toward other people or them toward me. But it woke me up a bit, thank goodness, about ill will toward myself and how I have a habit of people pleaser, don't rock the boat, although sometimes I really do.
So what she was saying, Meredith, was more questioning, well, if it's not about that, what you're saying, ill will towards other people or theirs towards you or towards yourself, then exactly what is it? And what I was just saying is you can think of it as a kind of aversion of turning away from present experience. That's what I meant. And that's what Candace was asking about, because it was just broadening the definition to where maybe it got a little confusing.
Oh, I thought it really helped.
Good.
Yeah,
Glad.
yeah. And part of my aversion is toward my feeling my anger. You know, I don't know if that makes sense.
Of course. Anger about feeling angry at your anger.
Yeah. So I'll stand up and know what is going on. It's like, no, wait a minute. Instead of, oh, okay, okay. And I just dig myself into this pit of self-pity and depression and all of that, at least in my mind this morning, seems like, as you say, aversion.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And you're
Yeah.
seeing it. And that's mindfulness. You're on the path. Can't get off this path. I'm sorry, Meredith.
Oh, I wasn't. Well, yeah, aversion is trying to do that, but
And you're mindful
yes.
about it. So thank you very much. Is there more?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there more?
Kim.
You're welcome.
And by the way, it's okay if you want to leave your camera off when Candace did. It's fine with me. If you're shy about asking with your camera on, it's fine to turn it off. But hi, Kim. Are you unmuted?
Hi, Trudy. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Nice to see you. Yeah, I used to sit with you, Loyola Marymount, when I was a student many years ago. And
I remember.
yeah, it's nice to see you
With
again.
your parents too? Was that?
Yes, I did. Yeah, they teach Vipassana Hawaii
Yeah.
many years ago. Yeah, so nice to be part of the Sangha again.
Yeah.
I have a question around, one of the things I've been working through the past year is just more self-compassion and forgiveness for the ways in which I haven't been living in line with the precepts, or I haven't been living in line with the Eightfold Path. So that's something that I'm, actively just trying to send myself metta and compassion. But I also, had this strong desire for many years to, develop myself as someone who can share mindfulness practice with others and, eventually maybe lead sitting groups and give Dharma talks, and just sort of trying to reconcile, obviously teachers aren't perfect either, and we all have our flaws and our failings. But I guess I'm just wondering if you could speak to, finding the place of being able to lead and share while also being, I guess, a flawed human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. It's a question that has a lot of integrity built into it, which I just want to notice and appreciate, Kim, because you're even asking it that way. It shows that you want to be truthful and accountable to the Dharma and to your practice before or as you're sharing it with others. And the first thing I would say is that's the most important thing, is to be honest and truthful with yourself and others about where you're at, and not to pretend to be wiser or better or more, I don't know, saintly or something, than you actually are. And it's true. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know which it is, I've lived so long and had the blessing of knowing so many of the revered teachers in this world that what you say is absolutely true. Everybody does have their flaws. And so the best thing to do is, as you deepen your practice, to spend time deepening your practice, whether it's in retreat or just living quietly. I don't know where you are. It looks like you're maybe in the desert or someplace right now, but living somewhere where it's kind of peaceful and quiet. And for you, first and foremost, yes, forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness for what, because I haven't had contact with you. You may be being so overly scrupulous about your faults that you need to forgive yourself for that. Or you may have gone way off the path in some way, that I don't know. And then you're coming back and celebrating that and forgiving, how do we learn? How do we learn? Sometimes the only way to learn about how valuable and precious this path for our life is to abandon it and see what happens. And you're young, so you have time still. You have plenty of time to deepen and ripen, and I can just see in your eyes how much you care. And that is also very beautiful, beautiful quality. So, I wouldn't worry right now about your worthiness to share or teach. I would first see how at peace, how much can you make friends with who you actually are, and how can you get feedback so that you're not too hard on yourself while you assess who you are, because this is a big pitfall for every single human being I've ever worked with, is being too hard on ourselves. Always. And it's something I still see in myself. It's just such a deep habit. So do you have somebody that you're talking to who can give you some feedback on how bad you aren't? I think you're muted again. I can't hear you now. Hold on. You,
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I needed permission to unmute. I do have support, yes, that I could reach out to for that. So thank you for that.
And is it support that sees you in a good light?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have. Yes, I have some of that kind of support. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, and then I think, once as you begin to feel more and more confident in your own goodness, and you practice more and more, it will naturally come to you. You'll feel ready to share in a way that doesn't have that little, I don't know, that thread of guilt or of unworthiness. You know what I mean? That is in you. And I'm not talking about being shy or. I was terribly shy and nervous about teaching. I mean, neurotically shy and nervous for a long time. That's different. I'm talking about that sense of that you have nothing to hide, that you are at ease and home and friends with yourself, as much as you can be. Does that make sense?
It does. So, as far as trying to begin any teacher training or anything like that, maybe I'm not ready yet, basically, and I should just focus on myself.
Yeah, I don't know your practice enough to say, are you ready? Are you not ready? It's something that, yeah, I don't really know. I think that you have to trust the people who know you more deeply or connect with me apart from the group where I can talk to you more about it.
Sure.
And be happy to do that because I can't, do you know what I mean? I can't really get enough of a sense.
Yeah, of course. No, but thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate
Yeah,
your feedback and would
you
love
can
to connect.
reach out. Yeah, you can definitely reach out to me and we can continue this because I love you for being so honest and wanting to be in your integrity as a teacher. I really do. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Trudy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we have Isabel. And then the question in the chat. Hold on. Naomi wants to share something, and Sally Cheek has something. Okay, Isabel, and then Naomi, do you want to put it in the chat what you'd like to share, or do you want to raise your hand? And yeah, I will say something about Paul Farmer. So devastating to lose Paul Farmer. Okay, Isabel,
Hi, Trudy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I wanted to get back to wise efforts and what you shared. I understand how the recognition of patterns of behavior can have an effect on the behavior. As you know, you gave the example of going for popcorn instead of candy. Um, what I'm struggling with in my practice has to do with patterns of thoughts, especially as they relate to past trauma, and how, in a way, in my mind, sometimes I see a contradiction between my meditation practice, the sitting, where you observe what is without changing anything. You are just present to what arises.
Yes.
And then there is this tendency to want to change the patterns of thought regarding, again, past experiences. And somehow I know that there's a way out of it, but I haven't found it. And if you could help me with that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, can you give me like a specific example?
Um,
Just any example. It doesn't have to be your deepest, hardest thing.
right. So again, exposure to some kind of trauma, for example, having been held at gunpoint, let's just say. Um,
That's a big trauma. That's a big trauma. Yeah. So with trauma, the instructions are a little bit different, Isabel. I'm really glad you brought that up. Because when you've been exposed to real trauma, like something like that, which is so terrifying, then there you need to be really careful when you're sitting, when you have a memory of it or it comes back into your mind, or during the day too, but just to ground yourself, to take a moment and say, this is now, and right now I'm safe. This is now, right now I'm safe. It just helps regulate your nervous system. So if you're meditating, open your eyes at that point, look around, touch your arms, touch your body, make a connection, or with the chair if you're sitting in a chair, touch the seat of the chair, touch the floor if you're on the ground, just to ground yourself in this is now and this is safe right now. Now I notice there's tears in your eyes. What are you feeling right now, Isabel?
um, I don't like talking about it, frankly. Um,
Then you don't have to. I don't want to make it worse for you.
Thank you. It's you talked about being terrified about teaching and being talking in public. I feel that, and what is odd is that I taught for a living for more than 20 years. So, but when you're in your own subject and you're in front of a group, it's very different than unveiling yourself and being vulnerable. So I appreciate um, this opportunity. But I've been I think I've gotten pretty good at being with what is and being present, at least during my sits and several times during the day. I have, over the years, I have found an ease to come back to myself and be present to the moment.
Yes.
But again, there has to be some kind of progression from seeing and recognizing and allowing to, for example, the rain practice, right, that Tara Brock has brought on to us. And I think that, as was mentioned previously, it's the nurturing part to help guide through these types of traumas in life that seems to be the last step that is missing in my practice.
Okay.
And I don't know how to conjure it up, frankly, without being artificial about it.
Well, I think I'm so glad you said that. First of all, I do want to, somebody just put in the chat that you are so brave, and I want to echo that because this is not easy to open your heart. But the more you are willing to do it, Isabel, you give somebody else permission to do that, that this is a safe space where you can do that. Um, and also, if anybody shares anything that they then feel they don't, this is being recorded. And so if you feel uncomfortable, we just edit that out. So everybody is in control of what is shared here. And that's what makes it safe. Um, do you practice loving kindness? Do you do that practice?
Yes, I do have a metta practice.
I would
Uh,
do nothing but loving kindness. Right. Nothing but loving kindness. And maybe focus it on yourself. Sometimes we don't feel worthy of focusing it on ourselves. And then there's some people who will focus on themselves for 3 years, which is, of course, out of balance in the other direction. We have a community, we have other people, we have relationships, we have a world. But for you, for now, I would say just listen to guided metta meditations if it's hard. And it doesn't matter if it feels artificial. That's the cool part. It really doesn't matter, because if your intention is to nurture yourself, it might feel very awkward and artificial for a while. But there's an expression in the 12-step programs, fake it till you make it. Just fake it, and suddenly, one day, you'll actually feel some kindness or tenderness or some love enter your heart, and you'll think, and it might even just be the absence of being hard on yourself. It might not be something as grand as feeling love. Do you know what I mean? You might just notice that you're being a little softer or kinder. Um, and then to let the group, hold you and hug you. And because many people are feeling for you right this minute, because you have opened your heart to us.
I appreciate
Yeah, don't worry if it feels artificial. Can you just try anyway?
it. Sure.
Yeah, I think that will change.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Naomi wanted to raise her hand and be called on. Naomi would like to be called on. And read the chat, Isabel, because I'm sure there'll be a message for you. Um,
I'm looking for her.
you're looking for Naomi.
Yes. Oh, there she is. Okay. Hi.
So you're unmuted now, Naomi.
Okay, thank you so much, Trudy. I really appreciate it. And Trudy, you may know that I'm an LCSW also. So here's the question I want to throw out to everybody. I appreciate so much being here, and I'm one of these people who flies in here, even though I live in Santa Monica, and then I disappear for a while. But there's always something I'm looking for in meditation to add to all the thousands of years of inner work I've done at 78 years old. So my question is trying to knit together Buddhist principles and inner self work. Like, I really appreciate the lady who just spoke. And from my heart, I was wishing she also had an individual therapist so that she could still do meditation, but walk the path with a buddy, but that's not everybody's path. Everybody has to decide their own way that they want to do it. So when you brought up, I guess, feeling, in my words, angst or anger at times, or animosity. I come from a family where I was very loved by a mother, but she was very strict. Not all the time, but I was intimidated, and I went out as a young person in the world or in my community, shy and insecure. And it took years of therapy to gain self-confidence and be able to speak out. And what I find now is it's human to feel anger at times towards either things that are going on or with individual people, but I'm a very loving, kind person, and I do not want to be hostile to anybody. So what I do is I examine inside what I'm feeling with the anger, because I feel it's a legitimate human feeling at times, and processing it and seeing what I want to do with it. Do I want to just let it go because it's not something I want to put a lot of energy into it? It was a stranger or a storekeeper, or is it something I do want to take a look at? And then when I've processed it, I had a legitimate reason for feeling angry. And then I want to let it go, and I want to send good wishes to that person. I hope that they become less whatever it was that triggered me. Is that something in the marriage of Buddhism and the inner awareness from psychotherapy that's okay?
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect, because especially if you are sending loving kindness also to yourself for the painfulness of being angry at that person, not and making sure that in your sending loving kindness, metta, to somebody maybe who's annoyed you or you've been mad at, that it's not with the intention to change them, but to just, we're not trying to love everybody here in the sense of people who've been, harmful to us or really hurt us or scared us or whatever it might be, abused us. It's really about freeing the heart from holding on to resentments and grudges and ill will. And I want to thank you. That's what you described as a perfect process. Nick, we're going to have to wait till next week because we're over time. I'm so sorry. So I'd like everybody to just sit for a moment together. And I didn't get to Paul Farmer either, but I'm so sad that he died, Sally. And maybe maybe you can come next week and we can talk more about that balance of caring for ourselves and caring for others. It's really a huge question for everybody who is doing any kind of service to humanity in whatever form. So let's just sit for a moment. So we offer the goodness of our practice to all beings everywhere without exception. May we and all beings come back to the path when we've wandered away or run away. Come back to the path, to all of these elements of living a healthy, caring, happy, ethical, relational, and fulfilling life. That was a very quick dedication of merit because we went a little over time today. I won't see you next week unless you come to the retreat with Anam Tupten and Norman Fisher. You can sign up on Dharmata Foundation website, and maybe Caroline can put that in the chat for you. And Jocelyn, who I know is one of the favored teachers for this group besides me, Jocelyn has kindly agreed to teach next week. So come and hear her take on the Dharma. She's done lots of deep practice and other kinds of indigenous practices. And thank you for your practice. Thank you so much, everybody. And have a good week. Take care of yourselves and stay for the breakout groups if you can. It's a wonderful way to continue your practice for all beings. And everybody can be unmuted. Say hi, goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. See you
Bye-bye.
next time.
Thank you so
Everybody.
much.
Trudy.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Yes.
Thanks, Trudy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
Trudy.